So I'm going to talk to you guys more about how to motivate your child, okay? So there's 5 things I'm going to talk about, not 10, 5. 5 things I'm going to talk to you about in how to generate motivation to engage socially with you. So how can we offer our kids more choice? We can, you can offer choice this way, right? So do you want the yellow screwdriver or the blue screwdriver? Another way is to start an activity like the mom blowing bubbles. So she started blowing bubbles. She didn't force the child to come. She waited to see if the child would be motivated by this activity. The other way that you can do it is just put some stuff out and see what they go for. So, and that's the most natural way. We're not forcing the interaction. We're not forcing them to choose 2 things. We are just laying out a few things and see what they go for. And once they go for that, that's what we're going to play with. At home, you want to set out a few things, not too many, because then it's really hard, because then I have my little butterflies that will go, oh, I'll try this, oh, I'll try that. So you want to manage the attention, but you want to put a few things out to see what they're going to go for. Another way to follow their lead is also to see and wait and see what they're doing with the toy. I have my own ideas of what I want to do when I get the garage out, but I want to see what their idea is first, because a lot of times they're not the same. So I want to wait and see what's going to happen. The next one in building motivation is mixing up easy and more difficult things. It's important to do that to build momentum in an activity, and also motivation momentum. You want to give some freebies. That's what I call them. So those are, it can be, you're going to give your kid a few blocks to start to play without asking them to do anything. You're just going to give some free ones, or a few, I call them bonus tickles, when you start to get that interest and motivation going before I start the teaching part. Because what happens if I go in there right away and try to teach? What do you think can happen? You're going to lose the motivation. They could disengage. And I have some friends that as soon as I ask them to do something, they start screaming. So then where am I? And then I have to deal with a tantrum. And so I have to manage behaviors instead of actually having fun and playing. So that's why you want to start by giving them some free ones. So let's say you're playing with the blocks and you're giving him some, but he doesn't really care. So maybe actually he's not motivated by the activity itself. So then what I do then is I'm not going to stop it right away. Because sometimes you do that, you go, oh, I'm going to cut my losses. This is not a good activity. But what sometimes I'll do is I'm going to try something different. So maybe if I present and going, poof, and then I do that. Maybe if I do something different with the blocks, I'll get their attention again to it, and then I can start building that motivation again. There's always that attention piece, right? And interest in the activity that you have to think of. The next one is don't start with something too hard right away. Right? When I go to this step aerobics class, if she starts doing the hands and the legs, and I haven't even mastered the legs yet, I'm like, yeah, forget about it. I'm going to leave, right? So it's the same thing. So you don't want to start with something too difficult right away. You want to build up to it. I'm talking throughout the day, but I'm also talking throughout that activity. You want to warm them up. Right? So you can start, I'm going to give an example of a child who can reach and look, but can't point yet. So you want to teach them how to point, right? We're not going to start pointing right away in our activity. I'm going to warm him up by giving him things when he reaches for them. And once we're warmed up, then I'm going to add maybe helping him to point. Because what happens if I start working on the pointing right away? He's probably going to get discouraged because he's not going to get enough back in return. So he's going to be like, ugh, this is too hard. I don't want to do this. Start with things they can already do. It'll make the harder thing look easy. So that's that. Again, it's about building that momentum. The next one is variety. Why is variety important? Well, if my child really likes Wheels on the Bus, he really likes it, but if we sing it the same way every time, after a couple of weeks, I think, well, you would think, maybe not, but it might get boring, you know, and then, oh, he doesn't like Wheels on the Bus anymore. Well, we need to vary. And there's more reasons why we vary. We vary so that we can teach new concepts. We vary so that we can add vocabulary, so that they can hear different words, different actions, so that we can teach different skills. And also, one of the main reasons we vary is to build flexibility in play and also creativity. Because if we show them how we vary the activity, then I have some friends who have great ideas about games once they've learned that it doesn't have to be the same every time. So that's an important one. So, yes, go ahead.
Just to add to that, as we were progressing through the QuickStart program, we were doing a lot of singing to get engagement and so forth, because Maggie is very, very fond of music and singing. So we would do something like Wheels on the Bus, and you'd go through the standard phrases, and then we'd say, what else is on the bus? And she'd say, a ladder. Well, what does a ladder do on the bus? And we got to think on our feet to come up to keep the song going. So she kept throwing us the weirdest toys to see what they would do on the bus.
Yeah, and that's great motivation.
For us to be able to kind of just be silly on the fly like that kept her motivation and her attention on it for longer and longer periods of time.
Oh, for sure. So the motivation too, right?
Exactly.
So you can add a new step to the routine, right? So it could be with Wheels on the Bus, and then we add the ladder. That's a great one. It could be also sometimes we'll add a step in a tickle routine. So first the child, wants you to tickle the belly, and it's a belly tickle game, but then, I'm gonna try maybe the toes this time. So you add a new step. So it continues to keep that motivation going. You can add new actions inside the activities and the games. Basically anything that's going to make it different, that's going to keep that activity fresh. One way to increase motivation is to have natural consequences to the child's actions. There's controversy in autism about reinforcement and using natural reinforcement. We use natural reinforcement. So basically what it means is whatever the child's goal is, I'm going to try to make that happen for him using as natural things as possible. So we're going to do a little exercise. Robin, you're going to be my kid, okay? So I'm holding the ducky. Quack, quack. Oh, okay, so I'm going to give it to her. Woo! So she's so happy. So that's the natural consequence that I think she wants to happen. So you have to kind of figure out, does she want it? Or maybe she wants me to do something cool with it. And then I go and I tickle her with it, right? That's the natural consequence. Arbitrary reinforcement in some other techniques could be that she says quack, I say good talking. And that's more arbitrary. It's not necessarily linked to what we were doing. Or I could also give her a chip for her effort at trying to say quack. So that's more arbitrary reinforcement. Natural is, I'm going to do something about what we're talking about right now. What about if my child imitates me jumping? What could be the natural consequence to that? If we're playing a game and we're doing sleeping bunnies, or we're doing or like grenouille that I do with my French kids, and I jump and he jumps. Well, usually I'm going to jump even more, and I'm going to be so happy. So that natural is that actually the activity is going to keep going, right? So just the fact that it keeps going could be enough motivation. That's what we'll always try first. So always as natural as possible first. That said, it doesn't always work for everybody. Let's do another one. So the hand, he pulls your hand to his tummy. So that's the action. What could be the natural thing?
Tickle or rub the tummy.
Yeah, exactly. So just things like that. I could say, wow, you showed me your tummy, this is so good, but I don't know if he's going to understand that, if it's going to motivate him enough. So I'm actually going to do what I think he wants me to do. And sometimes I mess up. Sometimes I thought he wanted me to tickle, but really no, he just wanted me to lift the shirt up and down. And that's okay, maybe I made a mistake. But you try and you figure it out. So the fifth thing when we want to increase motivation is to reward attempts. So you want to, whenever they try to do something that you're doing, you want to reward it in some way. So why would that happen? Well, because the motivation is going to be a lot stronger if you're giving reinforcement or rewards or consequences a lot. Because if you're waiting for that perfect imitation of this, you might have to wait for a long time. It helps to keep the child motivated to try, because if you're only going to start singing when they did the really good clapping, they might want to stop trying at some point.